Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about destroying the shorts, the AMC gamma squeeze, triggering margin calls, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. AMC stock short interest up to 103 million shares, a 64% increase according to Ortex. The data is self-reported by institutions to exchanges, so the real numbers are likely much different. Think about that. So what we saw was as AMC sees its price increase by 20% throughout a few days, we then saw the short interest doubling down and saw an increase of also 64% from the previous trading day. Now, firstly, this is already just showcasing that every time AMC poses a threat towards these short sellers, you start to see these guys trying to double down, trying to increase the amount of manipulation and suppression on AMC. Now, secondly, what we have to also realize is that this is self-reported data. I've always said that for ortex data, we have to understand it and use it as a reference. So by knowing that we're seeing even the self-reported data to increase, we know that the shorts are increasing. However much the actual number is, we don't know, but we know that they are still increasing on top of that. We've already talked about how the float has obviously been shorted many times over. What could be 20% for the short interest is actually 200%, is actually 300%. It's just that they are, of course, not reporting this, but to see these numbers increase, it showcases just how much suppression is ongoing. You can see they had to double their short interest in order to push down AMC last time, showing HODL actually has effect. Does the current push down result in another doubling? So what we have to understand is that as apes are holding on to the shares of AMC and making sure that these short sellers never see real shares, we are applying the pressure. And we've already talked about how over the last few days, as we see the price of AMC increase, we're seeing the short interest increase as well, showing the panic. But this is just to say that, once again, going over to when we talked about the inflow and outflow of AMC, we know that apes are not offloading their shares. We know that apes are holding on to their valuable shares and is making these short sellers panic. And you can see short sellers who shorted AMC from all-time high made $718 a share profit, and they still need to route 80% or orders off exchange to control the price. It tells me a little spike in the price can wipe out those profits. And this is something we've talked about before. All of these short sellers who've claimed that they have covered their shorts, they have made hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in profit from shorting AMC, is clearly not actually the case. The reason for this is because if they have made the profit, or if they are already in so much profit, they wouldn't feel the need to suppress AMC. We wouldn't be seeing 80% dark pool orders. We wouldn't be seeing that as AMC goes up 20%, as AMC goes up 10%, we're seeing the short interest seeing an increase of 64%. We're seeing the short interest increase by 100%. We wouldn't be seeing these things happening if they are already, so heavily in profit with their shares. And something else we also have to understand is the fact that they've inherited 10 times the short position after the reverse split. And this is why we've said that the squeeze price for AMC, the real price discovery, is so much higher. We talked about how even without including the squeeze, AMC should be easily trading in the triple digits. We talked about how when the squeeze happens, the beginning price is easily in the thousands, going to the tens of thousands, because of everything that's been ongoing. And so we know that right now, the reason why we're seeing this suppression, the reason why you're seeing doubling down in SI, the increase of 60% in short interest, is because a 13% increase in AMC is destroying their profits. A 5% is making them panic, and that's ultimately what's happening. And another thing is that the only explanation is that it can destroy someone too big to fail. And when we see things like this of 85, 86%, even 88% of dark pool usage on AMC, you have to realize, why is it out here? Why is it happening? Who is it that it's protecting? And in this case, it's firms that are potentially too big to fail. We talked about how Citadel wanted to apply for that. We talked about how UBS obviously holding to these positions. We know that there are multiple institutions out there who are involved with AMC, who are involved in positions that easily goes into the tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars with each of these individual firms. And it becomes to the point where these firms, if they were to get bankrupted, it could cause a mass effect on the market. Just think about the effect UBS will have when they go bankrupt. Just think about all of the positions that will have to be liquidated and at a fire sale if Citadel was to be bankrupted. And that's exactly who these short sellers are. And so when we talk about why there's a constant need to suppress and manipulate AMC, that is the reason why. You can even see here, we've seen how regulations have constantly protected these short sellers, and we're seeing this happen again. SEC pushed back the short selling rules again to 2028. Rule 13F2 for reporting short now starts Jan of 2028, and security loan transparency in September 2028. This buys hedges more time to hide, but we are onto them. Now, for those of you who have been on my channel for a very long time, this is something we actually talked about in 2024. This was originally supposed to come out in 2024. It was then delayed into 2025. And when we then talked about it in 2025, it was then delayed into 2026, which was this year. And now we're seeing it being extended into 2028. You can even see here, this was supposed to come out, this was firstly originally adopted in October 2023. It was supposed to come out for December 3rd of 2025. And it has been delayed constantly. We've seen it delayed in 2025. We've seen it delayed in 2026. We're now seeing it go to 2028. And to be honest, if you ask me, is it actually going to happen in 2028? Well, as the way I see it, as how it has been, I don't think that that's going to be the case. Now, why would the SEC, whilst trying to say they want transparency, they want fairness for the market, they want to help the retail investors, constantly delay something that actually does that? Why would they delay the very rules that could bring transparency to the market, that could bring fairness to the market, that could help the retail investors? And that's because they've realized there are too many institutions who have made these short positions that can't be explained, that showcases the synthetic shares, because if they were to talk about reporting short selling, then there will be firms showcasing that they have 1 billion shares of AMC short, despite the fact there isn't even 1 billion shares of AMC that should be out there. And that's why they delayed this. And they're being very quiet about this, especially with everything that's ongoing now, because the SEC isn't here to help out the retail investors. And this is what I'm saying, and it's the fact that they want to help out these institutions. And so this is obviously just showcasing that. And then you can even see here what we talked about with how AMC has the gamma squeeze. So I didn't even mention AMC in my question, and still Grok suggested AMC. So because of what we talked about with the option chain for AMC, you can see even Grok is saying that AMC is very likely to have a gamma squeeze right now. Now, this doesn't mean it's obviously 100%, but the very fact we are seeing how data are all leading and showcasing that AMC is the one that's going to be having the gamma squeeze, that it has the highest possibility with everything we've talked about, is something that is obviously very, very bullish, especially with what we've just said about how these short sellers have been over leveraged, are facing all of these problems. So when AMC has a gamma squeeze, you can obviously expect what will happen to the price. And it's why we've seen the suppression happening, because they've realized when AMC goes close towards that $2, the gamma squeeze possibility just gets higher and higher, and it will push these short sellers to an area where they will have to lose out on hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, which would then escalate to obviously the short squeeze, which would make them lose hundreds of billions of dollars. And that's why we see the suppression. You can also see it here for the FTDs, for both GME and AMC, how these FTDs are constantly getting rolled or swapped out for later. And this is what we talked about with how because of this, we understand the pressure. We understand what's going on behind the scenes. We understand that these short sellers are indeed struggling. They are still manipulating. They are still up to their usual antiques of suppressing and using these tactics. But the very fact that they have to do this showcases that they are not making profits from the shares that they shorted. They are struggling to keep everything afloat, and is why they feel the need to obviously do this. Now, one of the things I found interesting was this particular thing, which talks about imagine margin calls goes out on Thursday hour before market closes, and then on Friday morning, it forces liquidations of some in distress. Now, what we look at is obviously talking about everything that's going right now, especially the silver market. We talked about how this could easily margin call multiple big institutions. Now, what we have to realize is that this hasn't happened for today, but the very fact that this is on the table is showing how at any time we could see it suddenly all come crumbling down. Because of the thing that's ongoing on the market right now, we could easily see how these guys could get margin called, how we could see a massive fire sale ongoing, and how the short sellers of AMC will be taking massive hits and will feel and have the need to obviously cover some of their positions. And then you can even see we are seeing how there are so many potential short squeezes. We're looking at HYMC as well, and with the fact that as of the recording right now, currently silver is trading at $92.3 give or take. Again, this is at this current recording moment, and this is what we talked about with how these short sellers will be margin called. They will get squeezed out. We will see potential short squeeze of HYMC as well, and you can imagine how that will go. And furthermore, we have to realize is that you can see for the HYMC is that there are naked shorts above the $35 amount. And with this, we understand is that when we do see it go up, when we just like what we talked about earlier, when we do see it go to these areas, we are looking at how HYMC could easily squeeze so many short sellers. And once again, the short sellers are the usual suspect. And the reason why they're trying to prevent HYMC from going up in price is because HYMC going up in price does actually benefit AMC, and they're trying to prevent this from happening. And now, when we take a look at the SLV, we can see implied volatility spiked past 130. Those who are deeply underwater will have nowhere to hide. The reason why this is important is because of understanding the silver prices, understanding the effect it will have on HYMC. And when we see HYMC goes 35, we could be seeing some major margin calls, but also talking about the correlation between GME and SLV. And so you can see with how everything's happening right now, we could easily see massive squeezes happening, massive short sellers getting taken out, and that's what we are waiting for. As always, none of this is financial advice, so do take a grain of salt, make sure to do your own due diligence and research, and I'll catch you guys next time.